Hello and welcome to Tools in the Shed, a podcast powered by CarsGuide, ready to rip into car stuff that has caught our eye this week. I'm James. Who is with me is Matt.
Yeah,
who's been thinking about utes of the future.
I have.
And
Always.
Richard, who's been pondering an Aussie icon.
Hello.
And we'll catch up with legal proceedings, ready, fire, aim marketing, and muscular mice in this week's MuskWatch. So stay with us. But first, some feedback. We'll cover off the thoughts that we've had back to us. Thank you very much to everyone. First of all, I wanted to call out, we're back up to 5 stars on iTunes. With a substantial number of ratings now. We'd gone to 4.5, so we've now got enough that the averages have kicked us back up to 5.
I thought it was impossible once you got below 5 that you could get back up.
We are a 5-star
I can't do it on my
iTunes.
I can't do it on my Uber app. I can't get above
Back up there.
4.82.
What are you, 4.82? What are you, JC?
They
on
mustn't
Uber?
go, I have no idea. I don't want to look. And then they, I mean, it probably depends on how far you break the fractions down. So if they just go to a 4.5, once you tick up over 4.75, they round you up to 5 again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're at 5.
I was at 4.5 once on Uber.
For Uber?
And I'm back up at 4.8 now.
Okay.
But I made an effort.
Someone didn't like you.
Yeah, it's
I know
not
who
nice.
it was too. It
Oh,
was
it's
the
not a
guy
nice
that
thing.
I told him you didn't need an indicator, right? And he was like, don't tell me what to do.
You did do that?
Yeah.
Did
I
you?
told him how to drive. Oh, because he was going the wrong way.
I told him how to
He
drive.
had to go straight through, and he had his indicator on, and the road bent round. Anyway, he's the reason why I went down.
And what did you give him?
Nothing. 0.
Oh.
0 stars.
Wow.
Right, so a non-rating mustn't impact their percentage. It's just not counted.
Oh, well, no, I gave him 1. I gave him
You gave him
I went
1.
the lowest you could give.
Okay.
Yeah.
The poor guy. It's his livelihood.
Maybe he's out of a job now.
Well, speaking of rankings, Canned Food has said, please don't do that to Toyota Land Cruiser.
Oh, yeah.
Please. And he's put a couple of praying hand,
Those
icons
ones.
and slap forehead kind of thing. So, okay, Canned Food, it's not up to us, but I suppose you've put you've nailed your colours to a mast.
I'm sorry, Canned Food. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
You're out.
Definitely.
Sorry, champ. Boy.
Now, DeCool says...
Oh, cool.
Now, speaking
Or
of...
DeCook?
No, we'll get to that. Speaking of accessible dreams, now I wasn't here last week.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to. I did watch most of the podcast.
Was it a Subaru?
We were talking about making dreams come true.
I've gotcha.
And he
Subaru
had a-
Impreza Turbo he
The
wanted.
most accessible dream ever.
Yeah.
Okay, he says, because of its practicality, I love the GLB when I saw it live on the last IAA, which is the Frankfurt Motor Show.
Yep.
And if I was staying in Europe, I would actually consider it as a replacement for my BMW Grand Tourer, which I chose 3 years ago over the X1. You should call me Mr. Practical, but that's what happens if your first car owned is a Mercedes S124. So that's the wagon of the W124, of which I've had one. So
Wow.
Good choice, Mr. Practical.
Brethren.
Cool. Back to GLB, it is actually a tiny bit wider and shorter than X-Trail, you mentioned as a comparison. But the sliding second row seat is the best invention in this kind of car. So he's very happy to either compromise the load space, blah, blah, blah. We know how that goes. He says, do thoughts like this call again for a Tools in the Shed family special with Nadal, winky face, which is a bit creepy.
This is the second call for Nadal to be part of the podcast.
Was it cool last time?
Last week there was a call for her. I don't think it was cool last time.
Might have been somebody else. Yeah.
Cheers. P.S. It's cool, 2 syllables without the accent on the last K.
So is the K silent?
It's all.
Silent K.
I'm taking it as a silent K.
Cool.
DeCool. I thought it was DeCoolk.
Yeah,
There's a K there.
There's
There's
a
an
K there.
accent. How do you? I don't know
Okay,
how to
let's
act.
give us your feedback to cool, and see,
Not
tell us
DeCool
where
K.
we should go with it.
Okay.
Okay, now let's see if says shockers on the lot.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I don't get that either. Shockers on the lot.
Shockers on the
So
lot.
I think he wants to put shock absorbers on things or electric shocks
on
all of us.
Either way.
Or
It's a
electric
good outcome.
SUVs.
Yeah.
Like,
Shockers.
shockers?
I don't know.
Shockers.
Explain yourself.
Is that an electric reference? Is that a
Yeah.
suspension reference? Are you
Shockers.
threatening us? Or is this a more meaningful kind of
Should we
suggestion?
call the police?
Or,
Yeah.
you know when you say something shockers? Oh, shockers.
I don't
It's
say
terrible. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll
Maybe.
get some clarity,
Can you say
hopefully, from Let's See.
Yeah. Don't they say that in Kuma?
Now, Mac Falafel Face says, you can tell that it's a green screen because the guy's tattoo is in the background too.
Yes.
Now, if you're inferring that this is not actually our workshop, if this isn't the shed, I find that offensive. which is a very late 2019
This
thing
is
to
an
say.
absolute shed. Look, I can get up and look. I can point at stuff over there.
The calendar.
The calendar over there. There's tools in the shed over there.
Yep.
Things.
Yeah.
at that.
So
Look at that.
anyway, moving on.
Mm.
Ian Thomas says, having watched your good Tesla reviews, M4.
Oh, thank you.
Called you B4, but I think he meant M4.
Oh, before. No, he's seen them before.
Oh, of course. Having
That's
watched
the
your good
text
Tesla
speak.
reviews before,
Yeah.
I believe that the Cybertruck is only a prototype. The real-world Cybertruck won't be released for 2 years. It's all BS. Jaguar, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, VW, all would be better options for an EV.
Yep.
Local tradies firing up to order a Cybertruck in 2 years' time. Multiple emojis, laughing, crying, tears, etc. You think? Three exclamation marks.
I think 2 years is optimistic.
Yeah.
The car that we saw was not a car. It was a piece of automotive design.
Well, I thought Tom's comment was
Prototype.
great. It's the Pedestrian Slayer 7000. Totally. I thought that was fantastic.
Well, how long did it take Model 3 to come out? And Roadster, how long have we been waiting for?
Yeah.
So it could be 5 years.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess the reality is that there are people who have put their money in expecting to be able to buy one of these things. I don't think they're going to be able to buy what we saw on that day.
No. Mate, there are people who put their money in the expectation that they're going to have level 5 autonomous driving within our lifetime, which is a pipe dream.
Totally.
It's unlikely.
That car is not going to meet any Australian ADRs.
Yeah.
For starters, I'm pretty sure. So it
It's
won't look like that.
rather sharp edged.
Yeah.
It is.
But, guys, there's been a lot of talk this week about the Cybertruck and the F-150.
Yes.
And as we saw, there was a bit of banter on Twitter. There was one of our biggest news stories of the last week. In fact, the biggest news story of the last week was the banter between Ford and
Elon
Tesla.
Musk.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, labeling Elon Musk absurd, Ford was. And that's a fair statement.
And now this is surrounding the tug-o-war which they had between the F-150 and the Cybertruck, which looked a bit rigged.
Yeah. It didn't look like it was a four-wheel drive F-150.
It looked like a front-wheel drive, right?
Rear-wheel
drive, sorry. Yeah.
Wow, front-wheel drive F-150.
It's coming.
Oh,
That's good for packaging.
It would be.
I suppose you
It
could
would
lower
be.
the tray a bit.
absolutely. Yeah. No, because it was just the rear wheels that were spinning and not the front.
Yeah. And
How did
you
they
know,
make the wheel spin if it was front-wheel drive?
rear-wheel
Oh, it was right. Rear-wheel
just
drive.
the torque of the Cybertruck just made the rear wheels spin.
The rush of the
against
wind
the
off its
surface.
tyres.
It had its handbrake on. That's what was happening.
Yeah.
So obviously there was the Sonny Madra, who was is a Ford senior executive, wrote, "Hey Elon Musk, send us a Cybertruck and we will do the apples to apples test for you."
Yes.
And then Elon wrote back, "Bring it on."
Right.
And then there was this whole kerfuffle that went from there, a bit of back and forth. But my question is, this isn't going to happen. This isn't going to be a battle.
Right.
That's not a question. That's a statement.
Yeah. Okay.
But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that there is going to be a time when we see an electric Ford F-150 and an electric Cybertruck in a production, guys, that isn't angular and crazy looking and doesn't have fake bulletproof glass?
Yep.
Is that going to happen?
Yep.
When is it going to happen?
My answer would be yes. And I think largely because it's about rules, laws, regulations. It's about governments and other administrations putting in standards that will only be met by zero-emission vehicles, ultimately.
Yep.
So if there's still a need for a pickup-style truck in the US, for example, maybe at a certain point the only way to own one will be if it has an electric motor.
Yep.
And yes, it has a lot of advantages in terms of torque and all that stuff. If they can make that work, why not? But in terms of that battle, the F-150, it was rigged, wasn't it? I think it was a rear-wheel drive. But, the F-150 is the best-selling vehicle in America. And if Ford can make an electric Mustang SUV and create a lot of buzz, which they have, why not in the pickup market as well?
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
I would like to have known what that was doing to the battery's charge, what was pulling that F-150 as well.
Yeah.
Was the Cybertruck's charge just dropping like nothing else?
Right.
Because that F-150 would have been full of, fuel to run it all day long. That Cybertruck would have run out pretty fast.
I'd like to see, though, what the rationale was in terms of price or, proposed price. The Cybertruck's going to be pitched at a certain number. It should have been an F250, an F350
Well, that's
Super
it.
Duty, or who knows what.
What's an F-150 cost? About 35,000 in the States or something
Yeah.
like that, right?
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
Starting out.
so the F150 electric, do you see that? Ford's talked about it a lot.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, it makes a lot of sense. When we can get charging infrastructure up in place, I think people will probably even opt for that as the way to go. Quieter, you can because of no fuel tank, you can increase your payload capacity. Towing capacity will go up as well, likely too.
But
So,
in terms of image and customer appetite and, in fact, desire, it's a super tanker to turn around. In terms of shifting people from loving a big Cummins diesel, under the bonnet or whatever
Absolutely.
it might
Yep.
be.
Big petrol V8.
I mean, these are the
Yeah.
people, the more extreme end of that spectrum is where people enjoyed tugging Teslas out of the supercharger
Absolutely.
area,
Yeah.
as a statement of intent.
Look,
Yep.
the whole roll and coal. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, all that.
Whole culture. And I've spoken to a lot of four-wheel drive enthusiasts and people who use them day to day as their trade vehicle, and they're dead against electric. That they honestly, they've told me there's no way it's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And diesel is reliable, it's accessible, and vast distances of Australia, you can travel long distances, and every petrol station's good. Fuel station's got
I
it.
think it will have to be. There's no black and white here.
Yeah.
There has to be areas of grey.
Yeah.
Where for particular applications, for particular customers, a certain kind of truck is going to be right. So
Yeah.
we're in for a long period of diversification
Yeah.
And-
from what is
Yeah.
currently relatively simple
Yeah.
to something that's a lot more nuanced and
Yeah.
complicated.
And the good news is that in the future in Australia, you'll still be able to use fossil fuels to run your electric cars because
Absolutely.
we're so behind on the renewables side of things.
Yeah.
But it is definitely something that we have to look forward to from these utes, not just the bigger utes, but also the utes in the most popular segment that we play in Australia, the smaller utes as they're considered on the global scale.
Yes.
So you can't be thinking that the next generation Ford Ranger and Volkswagen Amarok collaboration will not have an electric version.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're going to have the Mazda BT50 and Isuzu D-Max.
Yep.
Surely there's some sort of electrification strategy there.
Sure.
And this is going to be a common theme across commercial vehicles in general, because a lot of commercial vehicles don't actually do lots and lots of distance. They are hub-based vehicles
That's
that
right.
deliver items around a
Yeah.
certain area.
Especially if they belong to a council, like a Sydney City Council, or Melbourne City Council, or Perth, or Brisbane, and they're just fleet utes,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
drive around and they put out traffic cones and they bring them all in again. And they stand beside the person with a lollipop sign. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well-
You don't need electric vehicle. Will be fine there.
Yep.
Ford's pretty strongly of the view that, field charging is a bit of a furphy. That most people are going to be charging either at their home or at a workplace. That Tesla's supercharger network, it might facilitate longer journeys, but you're right that most people do operate in a pretty established footprint.
Yeah. What I think we might see as well in the future, we currently have, Ford versus GM products doing, tractor pull style events where they have the tug-o-wars, right?
Yeah.
I think what we're going to see is a bit of electric bashing in the future, where some bloke's going to roll out his F250, super heavy duty car, and then put up against a Cybertruck, and they'll be cheering when the Cybertruck gets pulled through the mud,
Right.
backwards. But at the same time, I think you'll be broken into brigades. You'll have the electric fan, kids, and then you'll have the diesel fan kids.
Yeah.
For a long
100%.
time, I reckon.
But we got to also remember, the 250,000 tweet that Elon put out. He hasn't put a 300,000 tweet,
All right.
which is interesting.
Yes.
But also, that is just a quarter of a year's sales of the Ford F-150 in America.
Yep.
Or the F-Series, I should say, in
Yes.
America.
Yes.
So we've got to put that in context.
Yeah.
That's a global sales figure, or a global predicted sales figure, or order figure.
And how many of people have put in $100 or $150 placeholder?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
for it's and giggles.
Yeah.
It's
like
a
yeah.
gag. You can tweet
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
You'll get a good number of retweets by saying,
Yeah.
I just bought a
Yeah.
Cybertruck.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's an ad. Can I ask what was the response from Ford? Did they back down when Elon said, "Yeah, let's do it, bring it on"?
Yeah,
That's where the ludicrous comment
Yeah.
wasn't it?
they absurd.
Absurd.
They
beg your
basically
pardon.
labelled Elon absurd.
See, I don't think that's a very good comeback
No.
because Elon's called their bluff.
Yeah.
So why don't they do it? Why don't you think they try it?
It's a good question. I think they would want to have like for like.
Yeah.
And Ford F-150 electric might be the better like for like comparison. So
Maybe,
there
yeah.
could be something happening there, but I don't know.
See,
I can't answer it.
It's like, let's get into it. Let's act fast.
Yeah.
Forget
Yeah.
the details.
Yeah.
They can all fly
Yeah.
behind us.
Yeah.
A bit like the Nürburgring lap record, right? So I'm going to be there next week. Get a car there.
Yeah.
Do it. Get a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we've launched the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Do it. Hook it up to an F-150. Do it now.
Yeah.
Without thinking through.
Yeah.
But you get that bang of
That's
publicity,
true,
you know?
'cause I think Elon won that battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, and he won the day when it came to publicity. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about that. JC's going to tell us how much he's won on the share market as well. So we'll have to
No
wait
spoilers.
for
Well, that was
MuskWatch for
that was round 2 of the Ford versus Tesla fight. I reckon if there'll be a round 3, possibly.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a movie starring Christian Bale. and-
Yes.
yeah,
Well, the
Matt
first-
Damon.
Joaquin Phoenix.
The first
Yes.
Mustang Mach-E that goes up against a Tesla Model Y is going to get 1 billion views on YouTube. Like,
Yep.
can we organise that?
Yeah.
Ford and Tesla?
Why are you looking
Mustang.
at Mr. Pritchard? Of course, he's the Mr.
he's got
Fixer.
the
He can do
connection.
anything.
Yeah.
The camera.
It's true.
Because
Yeah.
Ford
Oh,
and
the
Tesla
camera.
are watching.
Yeah,
They're
we
watching.
want to get a Ford Mustang SUV and a Tesla Model X to do a
Model Y.
Model Y. Sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
Different letter.
Yeah.
Different letter.
Oh.
Sexy. That's right.
Yeah, sexy.
That's
Did you
right.
see that also
Yeah.
the tweet about the sexy is Model S 3, X and Y, and then cars as part of that naming convention?
Okay, so how does that fit in? Sexy
Cybertruck,
cars.
Cybertruck.
Cybertruck, ATV,
Ah.
I can't remember.
Roadster.
Roadster,
and
and semi.
Box.
Semi-trailer.
Semi. Yeah. Wow. Oh, and the semi.
Yeah.
The
Sexy
semi.
cars.
Semi.
Sexy cars.
That's a bit lame.
You
Anyway.
see, if you saw that on a number plate in traffic, you would
Yeah.
immediately just
Oh.
dismiss the person who's driving.
Do you know what I saw on a number plate in the traffic the other day? On a Alfa Romeo Giulia on the quadrifoglio, right?
Uh-huh.
FML 365 on the number plate.
FML.
365.
Right.
My favourite number plate would be a split window combi with the number plate piece.
That's cool.
I'd
But
like
would
that.
you spell it differently?
No,
Like P.
just piece.
PIEC.
Or if I ever bought, I think I might have mentioned this before. If I ever bought a Porsche, I'd have the number plate wanker. Because you completely defuse any thoughts. Like, yeah, that person has a good sense of humor, and you can drive your car with impunity.
That would
No
fit.
one's-
That would fit as well.
Because I've
Letters.
seen a Bentley
Mm.
with a personalised plate saying knob, N-O-B, just N-O-B. I thought, that's it. That's pretty much the idea.
Wow.
Self-deprecation
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the way to go.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there.
Yes.
Thank you. It'd be great to get people's thoughts on that
Yeah.
whole discussion. And Richard, we're going to move to yourself, an Aussie icon. It's in a certain place at the moment.
Certainly is.
Let us know your thoughts.
Well, okay, so the Aussie icon is the Holden Commodore, and it's not going. It's not going anywhere yet. Okay, but what is going is the Buick Regal.
Yeah.
Which is the Commodore in the United States.
Yeah.
It's also they're all based on the Opel Insignia, but General Motors in the United States has made the decision not to do a 2020 Buick Regal.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's speculation rife about what does this mean for Commodore? Does this mean Commodore is going to be axed as well next year?
And just to chip in, sorry, Richard, but to clarify, and our own Andrew Chesterton wrote a
Yes, that's
story
right.
on this. It's going to be deleted in North America, so USA and Canada.
That's
but
right.
it continues in China.
Absolutely, it's huge,
Yeah.
massive in
Yeah.
China, and Opel Insignia is going to continue in Europe as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's all good. It's just United States which is deciding to delete it from its lineup. But this does raise a few questions. What is the future for Commodore in Australia? And they've told CarsGuide, they've told Chesto that there's if there's anything that's going to happen, we'll let you know. But there's all the plans are in place to roll out the 2020 facelift, which is coming out very, very soon. Justin Hilliard, another one of our journalists, wrote another story saying, could this be the last Commodore? Is this the last version we'll ever see of it?
Right.
But I've got a theory, and the theory is this. What I think
The Earth
Holden...
is flat. No, it's about Commodore.
It's flat here,
Yeah.
but it's round overall. When you stand back,
That's right.
it's round.
If you get far enough back, you can see the curvature.
That's right. That's right. So no, my theory is this. Australia doesn't really need a large 5-seat sedan anymore.
Uh-huh.
But there are plenty of large SUVs. So what I reckon Holden should do is rebadge. The next Commodore should be a rebadged SUV. So I'm thinking maybe even an electric SUV to go up head-to-head with the Mustang or something like that. Now, what I found out is that General Motors is undergoing a massive, massive electric vehicle program at the moment. They're just focusing on pickups and SUVs. It's called the LTO program. I think I've got that right. It's called the BT1, of course.
BT1.
The BT1.
Yep.
$3 billion, part of a $7.7 billion investment.
LT1's that other project
LT1
that we
is the
actually
other
can't talk about.
That's the secret one.
And BLT is the sandwich that we're going to have for lunch.
I love a BLT. It's called BT1. And so what they're planning to do is electrify their SUV lineups. So there is going to be, and they've got a Project O. Project O is an electric Hummer, right? Now, so Hummer will most likely be coming back, right?
What?
Well, you know how Hummer sort of went out of favour, right? Because of
because it used 50
It
litres
was
per
just
100.
socially
It
unacceptable.
was exactly. But an electric Hummer would. Look, trucks have suddenly got bigger again, right? They've gone through that. Oh, we've got to be politically correct, and now we've gone big again, right? We've got past that. You're looking at me like.
So you're proposing that the next Commodore might actually be an electric Hummer.
No, I'm going to say that there will be an electric Hummer, but I reckon if you were to rebadge something like
The Enclave?
The Enclave would be
Enclave.
perfect. The Buick Enclave would be fantastic if that was electrified. But there's another large SUV that will be coming out of the electrification program as well,
okay.
which the Commodore badge might be on as well.
Right.
So I reckon the future's still bright for Commodore. But maybe not on the car that you know today. It could actually reappear or be reincarnated as an SUV.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it was a questionable choice. Several questions. Do we continue this nameplate or retire it respectfully, as Ford did with Falcon?
Yeah.
And do we continue on with a sedan? Because really that was what put Commodore under pressure to begin with, because the SUV wave had really picked up.
There are a lot of manufacturers who are now saying that SUVs are a fad, they're a trend, it's a fashion at the moment.
Yep.
Sedans are going to come back.
Right.
There will be a point when sedans and wagons return and they're important again. But I don't think that is going to be for 15 to 20 years.
Well, that's the theory. My father used to buy very high quality suits because he knew that he'd fall out of fashion pretty quickly.
Yep.
But then he'd come back in about 7 years down the track.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, for about 5 or 6 years, he was totally out. Oh, he's got cuffs on the, pants, and he's got a double-breasted suit, and then
he's back in again.
Then he comes back in again.
Yeah.
He's got the good quality suit, and he's
Just
right
a
there.
Cleary.
But as for the name, the Commodore name, I think personally my view is it should have been retired when they saw out the Aussie production cars.
In the same way that Falcon was.
Yep. But, towards the end of the Falcon's life cycle, I don't think it was the stronger nameplate of the Australian-produced models from Ford. I think Territory was the stronger nameplate. And Territory had a real important part in the Australian automotive landscape because it was an SUV.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was the most important model at that time.
And that's why it was a surprising decision not to bring the Territory, as it still exists, to this market.
Exactly.
That's a really good point.
Exactly. And they could have called the Endurer, which is a renamed version of the Edge.
Yeah.
They could have called it the Territory and it would have fit
And
the
U2
line.
is touring at the moment. So the Edge is completely topical. It
Oh
could
my
have been
God!
a perfect
Imagine that
promotional
product
opportunity.
placement. Him in the car
The-
driving the Edge.
And here he is, the Endurer.
The Endurer!
No,
it's
it doesn't
not.
work.
I mean, the Ford Bono.
A guitar hero called Endurer.
Yes.
No.
Look, you're right. And I remember being years ago at a conference with Ford where we had a sit-down meeting. We had to leave our phones at the door, computers at the door, and it was just a notepad and just sitting
Dignity
around.
at the door.
Dignity at the door. That's right. And
Pants at the door.
we asked pants, trousers at the door. We asked them, will Endurer wear a Territory badge? And they said no, because we don't want people to think that Endurer is a replacement for it. But what is it then?
Yeah.
If it's not a replacement.
Well, I suppose it is potentially a missed opportunity because Territory had such a strong reputation, even up to its kind of demise. It was still considered to be a good option because, it's an SUV.
I actually reckon that Everest would have been a better candidate to wear the Territory badge in Australia because it does have that 7-seat, that diesel.
Yeah.
That's what people wanted. That's what people were buying. When it finally came, the diesel took so long to get into the Territory lineup in Australia. But I think there's a lot of missed opportunities in continuing good nameplates and a lot of mistakes made in continuing nameplates that shouldn't have been.
Well, we are, even though they're not on our faces. We are wearing complete glass. We're looking backwards in glorious hindsight.
Yeah.
It's very easy to call it once it's all happened.
I think you're right, and it's interesting that Ford did one thing and Holden did the complete opposite.
And look where they've gone in terms of sales since then. Ford is riding the wave of the Ranger and the Mustang, and Holden is persisting with a Commodore that no one buys.
So what do you think? Would a electric SUV rebadged as a Commodore work?
No.
You don't reckon?
No.
It'll be interesting to see how the Mach-E goes in the States.
Yeah.
It really will.
Why can't Commodore be an SUV? I mean, if Commodore was right as a five-door, five-seater sedan, large sedan back in 1990, 80, why wouldn't Commodore work well as a SUV, as a seven-seat SUV today?
I honestly just think that the damage is done to the name.
Yeah, right.
I think that it needs to be retired. I don't think there's a spot
you could
for the name
potentially,
anymore.
I mean, Ford is seeing the Mach-E as a member of this Mustang family. It's not a Mustang replacement. It's It's incremental.
Yes.
Right? So you can still have your V8s. You can still have your Shelby GT500s and all of that madness.
Yeah.
But you can also have this Mach-E. Maybe the Commodore nameplate could be resuscitated, rehabilitated by it being an addition as opposed to a replacement.
Yeah, Commodore's almost a brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. And that's very much how Ford sees Mustang.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
its marquee brand.
Well, there's no Ford badge on a Mustang.
That's right.
Yeah.
China's just launched the Jetta brand as its own brand
Volkswagen
outside of
Jetta.
Volkswagen. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think anyone bought a Jetta.
Everyone in China
And
buys a Jetta.
Volkswagen has been in China for so long.
Yeah.
the
So
Chinese
Jetta
love
is its
Volkswagen, don't
own
they?
brand.
They were one of the first big European brands to make a beachhead into the Chinese market. The whole co-investment
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
They followed all that. They've been there for yonks.
Because to sell cars in China, you have to basically go into business with the government, don't
It's
you?
like a joint venture, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that went off topic for a little bit.
We did
but
go off topic. Anyway, I reckon a Commodore electric
Unacceptable.
SUV would be perfect, and that would definitely help Holden.
I don't.
You don't. What do you think?
Let us know in the comments section below. We want to hear from you.
Exactly. All right, now we're going to move into our garage and what we've been driving this week. Matt, we'll kick it off with you.
Yes.
It's small. It's German. Tell us about it.
It's muscular.
Oh,
Hey.
it's
Like me. No, not like me at all.
It's a
I'm not
Horst.
small or
It's a
German.
Horst.
Or muscular. It's an Audi A1 40 TFSI. So it's the top of the new A1 range.
Yep.
It's $46,000 plus options plus on roads.
Boy. Yeah.
We're looking at $55,000 drive away for the car that I drove.
Boy, it's a diminutive car.
Which is, it's essentially based on a Volkswagen Polo. And the spec that I drove is essentially the Polo GTI version of the A1 range. Now, that basically means that you're spending $20,000 more for 4 rings on the bonnet and a more aggressive styling. There are people who are going to do that. There are people who are going to fall in love with the design of this car. I am amazed at how cute and angry it is at the same time.
Reminds me of our children in days past.
Cute and angry?
Yep.
Yeah,
100%.
All bundled into one moment.
Oh, yeah. It's possible.
And
Believe me.
like there are elements to it that still tell you that it's got budget underpinnings in some ways. There's a lot of hard plastic in the interior for a luxury branded car.
That's because you didn't clean the Lego out.
Yeah. There's still lots of options to tick.
Yep.
Like you don't get adaptive cruise as standard. You don't get leather seats. You don't get seat heating.
Whoa.
It's a
Because when you're in the
$45,000
when you're in the
car.
50s, the 50K bracket.
Yeah.
Wow.
Getting up there.
I was.
I mean, you could get 2 Kia Seltoses for that.
You could.
I've got to say, driving it briefly, my immediate thought was this could so easily be the S1.
Yeah.
It drives like an S Audi would.
Yep. And as Tom wrote in his range review when he went to the launch, that they decided not to do an S this time around because it's no all-wheel drive in this version of the A1 for now.
Yeah.
I don't think there will be either. There's no real market for that part of the performance area for Audi.
Yeah.
They found out last time, I think the hard way, that offering a manual $60,000 all-wheel drive hatchback was very limited in its appeal.
I love that. That's so niche, though.
Yeah.
It's so good that car companies did that, though.
And then you're the dealer that's got the yellow one in stock.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But then
have you
hard to
seen
move.
the A1 over here?
Yeah.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
One of one.
That's the whole thing with this new generation A1. It's a lot more, I guess, smart in the way that it approaches things. It's a very simple lineup. There's a base model, a mid-spec, and the top spec that I drove. And having spent some time in the top spec, I would say it's $10,000 more than the mid-spec.
Yep.
Don't waste your money.
It's a shed load of money.
It is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's like a nice car, but yeah.
I mean, look, the BMW I drove last week, the 330i Touring, that was $73,000. It was really only 23 grand more than the A1. So,
what's 23 grand between them?
what I'm saying is,
Richard, what kind of circles do you move in?
Seriously, not
Round
those
of drinks.
not those circles. But what I'm saying is, if you are in those circles, I mean, why wouldn't you sort of step up? I mean, is an A1...
if you are in those circles, is that an Audi segue? Is that you trying to connect?
No, but what I want to know is, people who are in the market to buy a $50,000 small car, are they extending themselves just to get into it? Or is it just, that's a small car? I'll grab that.
It might be. I reckon it might be a second or third car.
Possibly.
You know?
Yeah.
They might have the Q7 in the garage,
and this is
or
for
a
the
Q8.
city.
And they've got something else, maybe a little bit sportier.
And this
A5.
is to put on a trailer behind the Q7
Oh my
for when you
goodness,
actually establish the
you're
base
right.
camp, and then it's easier to get around.
But yeah, I was struck by that price differential because the 3 Series, it just seems like you're getting a much...
You're getting more, aren't you?
It's a much more car.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I think in the interest of time, we will move on to the next occupant of our garage.
Yes.
Richard, fill us in on that one, please.
I have been driving, and you know what? I feel like I've been driving these cars all year.
Just cars?
No. Sorry, this particular car, the Nissan X-Trail.
Maybe you have.
I have driven so many
I
variants of this car.
Yeah.
I could build one. Like that's how well I know these cars. And so what I've been driving this time around is a special edition X-Trail. It's called the N-Trek. It costs $1,000 more than a regular STL. This one that I drove was a front-wheel drive.
What would you build your X-Trail out of? Would it be metal
well, I
and
think
rubber and stuff like that, or some other material?
Bamboo? You've got a lot of
carve
bamboo
it out
in
of
your
wood.
yard.
bamboo.
Bamboo X-Trail.
Sort of just Lego. There's a lot of Lego at my house at the
Yeah.
moment.
Sorry, Richard, continue.
Look, it's $38,700 for the front wheel drive. Yeah, it's a lot of.
What's that? You're stepping up to a BMW for an extra 23 grand without blinking.
I know, but the thing is, when you see what we see and what you can get also for that amount of money, it's like, that is quite a bit.
Yeah.
But you do get some things on it which makes it special. Now, only 500 of these N-Trek editions are being...
Get in quick.
Get in quick. Get in quick. Okay,
FOMO.
So this is what you get as an N-Trek. And it costs... I'm just having a look here. Okay, it's like $1,000 more than the regular.
But how much more added value do you get, Richard?
Well, they don't actually give me a number.
Listen,
They don't-
Richard, this almost sounds too good to be true.
But this is what you do get. Okay, so you get a bonnet protector.
Right.
So, that plastic bit which goes along the edge of the bonnet.
$200.
An old blanket that you're not using anymore.
Yeah.
You get, those, they used to have them heaps in the 70s and 80s. Those like windshield, wind. What are they?
Deflectors.
Yeah,
like-
wind deflector on the front window.
Yeah.
And on the back window.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Not a big one. These
What,
days,
the one
there's-
painted the same body colour and goes across the top of the windscreen?
No, not a
E.H.
visor.
Holden style.
Not a visor.
Yeah, but like a windshield type
The
thing.
plastic that runs
Yeah.
along the window line.
So that you have the
Oh.
window down when it's
deflector.
hot and rainy.
Oh, wow. That's a throwback.
Yeah. But
You
these
kidding?
days, they're streamlined.
Who even puts their windows down anymore? Anson?
Because
No
the car
one.
does have climate control, so I
Yeah.
don't know why.
Wow,
So
that's
anyway-
a huge benefit.
But the problem is, I've almost.
It's probably remained in stock from the 70s. Just cut them down from,
Yeah. It would
old
be.
Pulsars or
Because
something.
remember how
My
big they
goodness.
used to be? They used to be like
Yeah.
a big plastic sock.
That is
Like,
bizarre.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
one of those. But the thing is, I almost ran into a pole. Did I say that properly?
Warsaw?
Almost ran into a pole.
Where was he from?
Weather
Not a-
shields, they
not
call
a
them.
Polish
Weather
man.
shields.
Weather shields.
Right.
Almost ran into a pylon in a car park.
Yep.
Where I take my photos, where you can see the photos behind us now.
Right.
And that is because the way that weather shield sort of scoops down, it distorts your whole vision.
Oh,
it's
I
right
see.
exactly
Yeah,
where you're near it.
Right. Yeah.
I drove
good
that
point.
car home one
Yeah.
night last week.
Yeah.
I had the same thing. I had a near miss because I
Ah.
didn't expect that this little bit of plastic would
A windshield.
distort your
Yeah.
line of sight.
The
but
weather
it does.
shield.
It really does.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, let's get a part number off it and then check it against, 1970s Nissan
should.
accessories.
You do get so these are good. These are the good things you get. You get an 8-speaker Bose sound system,
Yep.
Okay.
which is good.
Yep.
You get 19-inch alloy wheels,
Yep.
and you also get leather seats too.
I'm going to
Alright.
say that's
So-
$4,500.
That's
worth of
much
extra
more
value.
than
It is-
$1,000 worth of value.
Yeah.
Leather seats are good, So that's what you get. Look, as for driving the X-Trail, I'm not a major fan of the CVT. I'm not a fan, and that's not just a Nissan thing. That's CVTs in general. I really think we
Yeah.
should just stop with those.
Oh,
The-
okay. Take that as read. Whoever's
Everyone-
watching,
Yeah,
just
so
stop it with the
Subaru,
CVTs.
Toyota, Nissan. Who else does a CVT?
Every car engineer out there, you need
Stop
to
it.
not do
it's
it
wrong.
anymore.
I know you just admit. You don't have to admit you got it wrong. Just don't do it
Tools
anymore.
down. Tools down.
Tools down. Lackluster performance.
Yeah.
Right.
I've got to say though, the ride in the X-Trail is not too bad, but the big strength of the X-Trail is how practical it is. It's got doors which almost open at 90 degrees to the car.
That's
The
very good.
back door and the front door.
Yeah.
There's heaps of everything. Feels like it's been designed. Like, it feels like whoever designed the X-Trail was either a mum or dad
It's
with
thoughtful.
kids.
It's
Yeah.
thoughtful.
Yeah, because
design.
you get into say a CX-5, and you're like, whoa, this is sexy, right? But it's like, oh, but this was designed by a single person without any children.
Yeah,
right?
maybe.
But an X-Trail has been designed by
Family.
a 52-year-old
person.
woman or man
That's
with
interesting.
3 kids. Because
Yeah.
it just feels there's buckets exactly where you want them to be. There's
Buckets?
storage containers.
Oh, right. You
Underneath,
just get some buckets with it.
underneath the boot floor, you've got this really good sort of area for like wet and muddy clothes and shoes and stuff. It's just and the cup holders are big and the door pockets are big. It's been designed by a parent, I'm sure of
The
that.
vision
So-
I have of your family is it's just consistently wet and muddy. Because
Yeah.
you're very drawn
Yeah.
to a receptacle to
Like,
put all this wet and muddy
One
stuff
of
in.
seriously, my son's favorite thing at the moment is just Dad, can you just hose me? So I go into the backyard and I just point the hose at him. It's
Nice.
very hot at the moment and we don't have a pool, but that's
Thankfully.
what you do when you pour.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll chip in quickly. I had a quick steer of the Renault Kadjar and the Intens version, which is just under 38 grand before you put it on the road. 1.3 litre turbo 4, so the power and torque are pretty good, but the torque comes in very low. So small capacity, but pretty good performance. A 7-speed dual clutch, no CVT here.
Love a dual clutch.
And its economy is pretty good. And the thing that I found in terms of just a first impression was that it felt European rather than idiosyncratically French.
Yes.
You know, that Renault seems to have moved to a
Yeah.
point where
Yeah.
they can put their own bit of design flair on it, but the quality and the feel of the car has come up a few notches, I reckon. That you're not dealing with a really ludicrous old media interface. You've got something that's contemporary and expected. The quality of the trim, the initial quality, as you look around the cabin, it feels really good.
Yeah. One of the things I find with French cars, often is that I'm not in on the no. Do you know what I mean? Like they'll put things in places which
Yeah.
on a Nissan X-Trail, it's obvious where it is, but they'll hide it.
Yeah,
with a
but-
French
But
car.
I've got to say, I take your point,
Mm.
but Renault has always had its volume controls for the media on a
Yes.
stalk to your
Yeah,
right hand, and
yeah.
it's so great.
Yeah, it does make
Yes,
sense.
it's different,
Yeah.
but it's perfect
Yeah.
ergonomically.
Yeah.
Once you know which button you've got
Oh.
to press for what function,
It's
Yeah.
perfect.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
I will never, ever forgive them for the turning the cruise control thing on in the button in between the seats.
What is that about?
Like, why there?
Yes.
Because of course you want to look down and check out what the button's on when
Why
you're
is
putting
it
the
down
cruise
there?
control
I'm
on.
just going to reach down down here to put
the one little negative I'll say, well, it's not little, it's probably pretty heavy and, fits behind the engine, is the transmission because it felt to me a little bit shunty, a little bit jerky. It wasn't a particularly smooth unit, and it wasn't just at parking manoeuvre time. It was also in between ratios, and I felt like, this is not quite as smooth as it
And that's why I would prefer a CVT over a dual clutch.
Whoa,
because
that's a whole other
CVTs,
can of worms.
at least they are smooth.
They make sense in an electric vehicle, but not in a petrol vehicle.
I disagree.
Good, let's hear your thoughts. And we're going to move into MuskWatch. Okay, let's open it up. So, the Vernon Unsworth defamation case is being heard in Los Angeles as we speak. And it's interesting for once to get Vernon Unsworth's side of this whole saga. So the Telegraph has been reporting, and this is a quote from their story, a British cave diver was left feeling, quote unquote, dirtied and vulnerable when Elon Musk called him a pedo guy. He told a Los Angeles court on Wednesday. I took it to mean I was a pedophile, Vernon Unsworth said.
Fair.
Well, you would, wouldn't
It
you?
feels very raw. I feel humiliated, shamed, dirtied. Mr. Unsworth, who court reporters said appeared on the verge of tears, said he felt Mr. Musk had branded him a pedophile.
Which is exactly the intention of what he wrote.
Absolutely.
Effectively, from day one, I was given a life sentence without parole. It hurts to talk about it,
Fair
Mr.
enough.
Unsworth said.
I totally agree. When one of the world's most powerful men
30 plus
right,
million Twitter followers.
yet says that about someone no one's ever heard of before, who's also, played a big role in rescuing some people out of a cave. I think, people talk about punching down. That is the definition of punching down.
So we've been over the details of this. We won't rehash all of that. Interesting, though, that the US District Judge, Stephen Wilson, had previously denied the defence's request to define Mr. Unsworth as a quote-unquote public figure, meaning lawyers for Mr. Unsworth do not have to prove Mr. Musk acted with actual malice to win the case. So that's made it much easier for him to prove his defamation.
Yeah, right.
And I was interested to listen to a podcast last night, shout out to ABC Conversations and Richard Feidler. And it was two Aussies, Richard Harris, he was the person on the podcast, and Craig Challen. And they were both made Australian of the Year after their participation in the Thai cave rescue. And really, it shed a new light, or rather lack of it, on how useful the little submarine-style unit that Elon Musk was pitching up to the people trying to save these kids in the caves last year. He said he actually carried the last child. All of them got out safely, amazingly. They were all sedated, and they were kind of unconscious while they were being transported.
Yeah.
High drama.
Yeah.
He had to go through what he described in the last chamber as a Tetris block cave opening. So he had to distort himself, get this person with him. There's no way that thing was going to work.
No.
There was,
No
I would say,
way at
zero research in terms of
Absolutely.
what's going to work in that situation.
Yep.
And so Vernon Unsworth's allegation that this was a stunt, under pressure in those circumstances, you can have sympathy for that.
Absolutely. And Elon Musk, right? I can't imagine he likes being wrong. He reacted, knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
And look, I'm pretty sure he wished he'd never said that about that guy.
Yeah.
But I think Elon's used to getting his way.
Yeah.
And in this situation, somebody who knew more about the situation said, you're completely wrong. And he's just reacted.
Yeah, well, in his deposition, he said he insulted me, I insulted him back. So it's kind of kid stuff.
It is.
Anyway, that was playing out, so we'll see what the results are. Now, Clean Technica has come up with a story that says Tesla doesn't do market research, that it's a bit of, ready, fire, aim, which is code for Elon comes up with an idea and they go out and do it.
Hence Cybertruck.
Yeah, absolutely. And the author of this, Jonah Kreider, says Tesla doesn't need to do market research, even though some critics believe it should. This statement may seem a bit extreme or even radical, but when a market is already saturated with too much of the same thing, that market begins to crave something different, something fresh. Okay, hence Cybertruck. Are you going to appeal to many people? Who knows? But she raised a point of view put on Twitter. A decade ago, Nokia spent millions on market research. The data told them smartphones would never be a mass market.
Yeah.
So there is a lot to be said for just going with your gut, and I think there's an opportunity here. So we'll wait and see whether that plays out Cybertruck-wise. The other one is, Futurism had a story about SpaceX sending muscular mice into space.
Okay.
All right? So the International Space Station is about to
muscle
get some unusually strong visitors. On Saturday, a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft is scheduled to deliver 2,585 kilos worth of cargo to the International Space Station. Amongst the supplies and equipment will be a few extremely muscular mighty mice, and they could help ensure future astronauts stay healthy while in space.
Do they eat them?
No. So it's called Moustronauts, and the Rodent Research-19 experiment is scientists on Earth have genetically engineered mice to lack myostatin, a protein that limits how much the animal's muscles grow. Right? This causes the mice to have about twice the skeletal muscle mass of normal mice.
Right.
So they're just these humongous, ripped, not even on the gear. They've just had their myostatin turned off. The goal of the mighty mice in space, preclinical evaluation of a broad-spectrum myostatin inhibitor to prevent muscle and bone loss due to disuse.
Yeah.
So when you're spending long periods of time in space, so these mice are just... They've got a rig on them, these mice.
They're huge.
Probably up there
muscle
in an
mice.
octagon or something, trying to rip each other's head off.
Did you hear about the Israeli space craft which crashed onto the moon? And on board the spacecraft were those tardigrades, the water bears. Those
I
tiny
have
little...
no idea what you're talking about.
Yes.
Tardigrades and water bears.
So have you heard of a water bear before? So water bears are these tiny little creatures, right?
Ah,
They're about 1 millimeter long. You can't actually see them really well with your eye, but they're supposed to be the most the strongest, most capable,
Resilient.
power-to-weight ratio. Or like
just in
cockroach
terms of
style.
they can live in low oxygen, low moisture, low humidity, low light, everything. And what's happened is that this Israeli spacecraft was going to the moon with these on board, right? They weren't flying it. It wasn't their spaceship, right?
A 1 millimeter amoeba style thing.
It took ages to get there.
Yeah.
Anyway, it crashed, and now they've been scattered all
Great.
over the moon.
There it is.
These little tardigrade water bears.
Further proof for my theory.
Yeah.
We are the cancer that is
Yeah,
destroying the
yeah,
universe.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
first bacterium
Yeah.
to get on there.
Exactly right.
All right, now the share price, we talked about that earlier. It had another slight reduction. It's gone down a whole $1. So in the last week. But Market Insider is quoting a particular Wall Street firm that thinks Tesla is a must-own and will surge 25% over the next year. So Tesla is a must-own stock in the transportation sector, according to a Monday note by Alexander Potter of Piper Jaffray. Potter increases his price target on Tesla to $423, a more than 25% upside to where shares currently trade. In addition, Porter said he thinks the Cybertruck is awesome and the Tesla could sell more than 200,000 of them per year in the US beginning in 2023. So the share market is, that person is completely on board.
Would you buy Tesla stocks? I know you like you're a bit of an entrepreneur, man.
Oh, yeah. I'm not an entrepreneur at all.
Oh,
but,
you are.
if
You
I
trade
had-
in certain commodities that you can attach to
I've
cars
got
and things.
about enough money to buy one Tesla stock.
Would it be worth buying one? No.
Just as an experiment.
No, but I mean,
We should get some skin in the game.
this is the time.
That's a great idea.
Tesla has gone at a low point after Cybertruck.
Could
right?
be considered insider trading, though, so we have to be
What?
careful.
But we don't. I don't.
We know Intel.
We know
Do
Intel.
we? I
Well,
don't
we're
know
on
him.
Twitter.
Richard,
I know nothing.
let's take it offline. We'll consult the lawyers. With that, we have reached the finish line. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, James.
And thank you, Richard.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks as always to our executive producer, Mr. Pritchard, for his vision, creativity, and dogged determination.
Dogged.
He's actually in high vis today.
Yes.
But it's actually charmeuse silk. It's very light, very delicate.
I'm gonna
It's an
touch it.
amazing look, isn't it?
That reminds me of a guy.
You might tear it.
That reminds me of a waiter the other day that was wearing an interesting ensemble
Oh, yes.
Oh, really?
at an event.
Have you
Was it-
noticed how much cleavage Mr. Pritchard's showing today as
Was
well?
it high vis?
It was high vis.
Whoa.
Highly vis.
Okay.
Oh, my God. Too vis.
Yeah.
Too much.
Please
vis.
pass on the word about the podcast and let us know your thoughts by searching for CarsGuide on Facebook and Instagram using the hashtag CGPodcast or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. If you're an iTunes listener, please rate and review us. Thanks for the 5 stars to
Yeah, mate.
everyone that has done that. And remember, you can watch us on YouTube. But before we go, I didn't want to believe my mother was stealing from the transport department. But when I called in on it this week, all the signs were there.
Oh, the road signs and things.